Okay, welcome to another edition of the Edlow podcast. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Shout out to Singapore. For some reason, I'm getting a bunch of new listeners in Singapore. I don't know why, but regardless, here we are. And I am excited for this one. I have Bushwhacker Luke. Bushwhacker Luke, welcome to the Edlow podcast. How are you doing?
Bloody well, mate, and I appreciate you having me on your podcast. Looking forward to talking to all the fans out there.
Awesome. I love it. Hey, how are you? Are you 80 now? How old are you?
How old I am? 79, 80 in about 6 months.
Wow. So you look great. What are you doing to keep yourself healthy? I mean, considering
You're
your
looking
life.
at me on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
If you go on the inside, it's not so great. It's not so great, mate.
Oh, yeah, you got some injuries you're nursing?
Not injuries. I've got bloody conditions. Different. This guy up here.
Ah, okay. Okay. Well, I gotta tell you, in wrestler years, you've made it. You've made it a lot longer than most, which is kind of interesting considering when you were doing the Sheepherders gimmick, man, you guys were just rough and tumble. I mean, considering
Yeah,
how
that was
hard.
another world, mate. A lot of people that couldn't understand how we could change from being a wild, vicious team, bloody, and one of the most craziest teams in the country to become one of the craziest comedy teams in the country.
Yeah, and I
And
wanted to.
that was easy answered. Money.
Yeah.
When you
Well,
work for NWA, you're a wrestler. When you work for Vince McMahon, you're a celebrity.
yeah. Well, and I wanted to ask you, I'm wondering, did you considering that was a little bit later in your career, were you kinda grateful for the change? Because I gotta imagine, like I told you off air, I'm a bit of an indie wrestler, and I really like the nights where I really don't have to do a lot, so was it kind of a nice change to kinda go out there and not be so violent?
Yeah, but we loved being heels.
Mm.
That was
Mhm.
our and that we were still heels at heart when we were baby faces. But that's life. We're professionals. You change hey, you change where you can, um, highlight your life. And
Yeah.
WWE was a highlight, moving from NWA. I've been sending tapes to WWF since 1982, and that, but Vince Senior didn't like smaller guys, and when Vince Jr. started, he had very few smaller guys.
Yeah. Well, and you also in that time frame, though, where there were a lot of really interesting, um when there were a lot of really interesting gimmicks, you guys stood out. And some of it was like the licking of the heads and the arm, the arm thing that you were doing. Who came up with that? Did you guys come up with that or did Vince come up with that?
Now, the arm thing we already had when we were heels. When we went out the ring, we would go, "Whoa!" at the people as a villain.
Mm,
Yay, as a villain. And Butch said, "Let's turn that around
mhm.
and start marching to the ring and doing the whoa and the yay and see how it goes." And the people bought it straight away. Now,
Uh,
the people up north didn't, 2/3 of the people up north didn't know that we'd been villains. They thought that these two old bastards starting wrestling in their 40s. They didn't know that we'd been wrestling as a tag team since 1965.
wow. Wow. So
They
so let
didn't find out that till we did win in the Hall of Fame, and we told them, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
well,
So
John Laurinaitis introduced us into the Hall of Fame, and we broke him in the business.
you broke Johnny Ace into the business?
Yes, we were in the NWA then, and he he was wanting to start in the business because his both brothers were in the business,
Mm,
and that and he was a well-educated college guy into business,
mm,
and that, but he had that urge to try wrestling, and
mm,
Dusty put us with him with us as our flag bearer, and he saw us working for every night for about 2 years. Or a year into it, we would do some six-mans, and he would come in as the third man,
Okay, alright, and
and
so
that's
that
how we
kinda
got in the business.
and so that kinda did that is that part of the reason why you finally got broke into the WWF? Was he already over there, or how did that work out?
How did he get into the WWF or
Yeah,
us?
how you well, was he a part of getting you into the WWF? Was he already there?
No, no.
Oh, okay.
We'd already gone when he got in.
Ah, okay,
We
okay.
we left in the last match in early '97, and he didn't get in till 2001.
Ah,
When Vince bought out, he was second in charge on WCW, and
oh, okay.
Vince, when Vince bought them out, he heard of Johnny. Johnny had been in Japan for All Japan for 10 years.
Mm,
He was a booker there
okay.
for Giant Barber.
Mm,
And then he come back to the States. I kept telling him he was there and he wanted to come back. I said, "Burn that out. Keep working over there. You've always got the States next." And he
mm,
stayed there since since, uh, the since around about 1990,
mm,
201.
okay.
Then he or 2000. Then he came back and WCW hired him
Mm,
as a Bishop's right-hand man. Bishop wasn't going to the shows. Johnny was going to the shows and doing the finishes and all that. He
mm,
was a great finish man.
awesome. Well,
And then Vince, when Vince bought them out, he kept Johnny and brought him in the office. Next minute, he's Vince's right-hand man.
yeah, yeah, that's true. I remember I've talked to a lot of guys who talked about his influence back there, and,
Well, they
uh
didn't like him because when they moved over, Vince only kept so many, WCW guys, and Johnny was the one that had to give him the axe.
yeah, right, right. Yeah, nobody likes the boss, that's for sure. Well,
N
you mentioned that you had a pretty interesting, way that you got into the business, so let's talk about that. What first inspired you to wanna be a pro wrestler?
Nothing inspired me, mate. I didn't even know that pro wrestling existed. We never got television in New Zealand to 1969, and that it was all radio, and you sit around at home and listen to, soap operas on the radio. The old radio would be on the mantelpiece above the fire. You have and then we just sit around and listen to the soap operas.
Mm,
Anyhow, my next door neighbor was a bodybuilder,
mm,
Brian Ashby,
mm,
and he, we were good friends, very good friends. He was about 230. I was 170, 175. Anyhow, he went into Mr. New Zealand, got placed in the show, and the judge, a former Mr. New Zealand, 1950, said to Brian, "Do you want to make some money with your body?" And
mm,
Brian said, "Yes." And the judge said, Ella Hodman said to him, "Come into this gym from 5 to 9, Monday to Friday. We're there any day. Come into the gym."
mm,
Now, we lived in a suburb of the capital. Wellington is the capital of New Zealand. We lived in a suburb about 8 miles out, 6 or 8 miles out, called Lower Hutt. And we used to go to a gym, sort of a weightlifting gym in our town, Lower Hutt. So Brian started going into Wellington. The gym was called Coolman's Gym. It was well known in the British Commonwealth. All the wrestlers and boxers who boxed and wrestled in the Commonwealth Games and all that. They were, if it was in Australia, New Zealand, they'd come to that gym. It was Coolman's was a well known gym.
mm.
Anyhow, Brian started going there and blah, blah, blah. And that's when I first heard the word professional wrestling.
Oh, nice. So he invited you out?
no, 6 months later, he dragged me to there with him. Now
Mm,
I'm 170, 175 weight, and I start training on the weights, training in the ring with these semi-professionals. They were the junior heavyweights or light heavyweights, and this is how they were. Their noses, cauliflower ears, and their noses pushed aside. Some of them wore headgear, like
yeah.
you know what headgear is,
Yeah, like
right?
a yeah, for wrestling, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like amateur wrestling. Anyhow, I started training there with these guys. It was pretty tough.
Mm,
They rub your face on the mat,
mm,
you know,
yeah,
and it was British style, European style. No, a lot of mat work.
mm,
You know what I mean on the mat?
yeah,
Reversing holds, coming up, getting taken down again, and put in a submission hold, getting out of it, and you get up again. The rules were very different. You couldn't kick or punch.
mm,
The
mm,
police the police were the commission,
mm, interesting.
and then it was very strict. I'm just gonna drop this in. The ring had to be 20 feet between ropes.
Mm,
They would measure that, and if it was 90.5, they'd make you fucking tighten the ropes up and make sure it was 20. This is
wow,
how strict they were.
wow,
I mean, who cares? You know what I
yeah,
mean? 6 inches.
right, right,
Anyhow, I went to one match in the capital, Wellington City and Wellington Town Hall, and watched my partner in a tag match. And that he was in the main event was a tag match, and now his name was Bruno Becker from South Africa.
mm,
fr- from South Africa. So that was my first match I ever went to, and in the Wellington Town Hall. About 4 months later, he said, "I've got a gig in Palmerston North, which is 100 miles away. Do you want to keep me company?" So I hopped in the car and went with him. Now, I never mentioned this before. Amateur wrestling was up to intermission, and then there was 3 pro matches.
mm, interesting.
You understand?
Yeah,
Even some of the amateur wrestlers, they did a bit of ha-ha, and that the amateurs have been around for a while would do a bit of showmanship, you know what I
mhm,
mean?
sure,
Just a little. Anyhow, I'm up in Palmerston North, and the amateur wrestling's going on, intermission's coming. Everybody's there except one junior heavyweight. Who now intermission comes, and the promoter says to me, "What size boots are you?" And I told him, and next minute, 2 boots come flying over. Next minute, I got handed a tank top, and, I had jeans on, and that's how I was.
wow,
And, my name was Ted Williams, and he said, you I had long blonde hair. He said, "Now you're gorgeous, Teddy Williams."
nice,
And next minute, I'm going to the ring. Now I
wow,
can't remember whatever happened. I can't remember a thing. But I came back out, and they all give me a clap when I came back to the dressing room because I
yeah,
'cause I did a bit of, I so in the last 6 months, my neighbor had been getting American magazines,
mm,
sent over from the States.
mm,
And, they come over on the boat and the magazines were about 6 months old, but they
mhm,
were or 3 months old, but they were the thing, and I'd read them, and I'd see Gorgeous George all the time,
mm,
Gorgeous
yeah,
George.
yeah,
So, saw how he went to the ring, in the magazines and all that sort of stuff. So I semi tried to do a little bit of that, just a touch of that.
mm,
And that was my first match ever.
wow,
And
that's
from
awesome,
there and that was '62. I started
wow,
training in '61, and that was in '62. Next minute, I was on every show the promoter ran, he had me on.
wow. So, the business in New Zealand at the time, it was pretty fresh then. I mean, if you hadn't seen it before, right?
No, but it had been going in New Zealand I didn't know that it had been going in the New Zealand since the 20s.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, boxing. The names they had there, Americans would come over on the boat and spend, only do 2 shows a week or 1 show a week.
Mhm,
Way back then, but they would more or less make a holiday of it.
mm,
Anyhow, when I started now, they'd come over for about a month,
mm,
and it was mainly European wrestlers, uh, UK and others from Europe. And the promoter would run 2 to 3 shows a week. He'd try and get two in at least, and
mm.
then in 2 different towns for a month. And I would be on those shows.
Wow.
1965, 1965, 65, John De Silva, who won a silver medal in the Commonwealth Games or Empire Games, whatever you want to call it, he turned pro. He'd won a
Mm,
gold medal, the silver medal in England, and
mm.
then turned pro over there in the early 60s and came back to New Zealand and bought out the promoter and started running 6, 7 days a week.
Oh, wow. Wow. So
Yeah,
you were traveling around New Zealand then,
yes.
all week.
And then
Wow.
Butch Butch was still playing rugby, you know, and
Okay.
but in 65 he started learning wrestling, and in 66 he came over to our promotion. He was working for a guy that ran once every 3 months, an independent guy that ran with no name, and he came over to our company, and hence, after about 3 or 4 months, we were tagged up in a lot of shows.
Did you guys start as the Sheepherders, or was it a different gimmick?
No, we was then was Butch Butch Miller
Okay.
and Sweet and Gorgeous Teddy Williams. It was like Beauty and the Beast.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
So we started like that. And then in the 60s, Jim Barnett had come over to you heard of Jim Barnett?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Jim Barnett, yeah.
Yes. He was the guy who owned WCW. So
Mhm,
in
mhm,
66, or 65, he come over to Australia with a whole American cast, wrestlers, broadcasters, and MC, all American, and
mm,
uh, and opened up Australia, running 7 nights a week. And he bought the roller derby out,
hmm,
which had a 10 o'clock spot Saturday morning,
hmm,
a real good spot, and
mm,
he bought them out and started running WCW. And of course, in the first crew he brought over, Killer Kowalski was the main heel.
mm, okay, and now so did you kinda jump over from where you were to start working at WCW then?
No, he would bring us over
Hmm,
as enhancement guys, for a week, for 2 weeks, he'd bring me over as a single, as enhancement guys, put the Yanks over,
mm.
put put you stinking Yanks over. Yeah, that's when we're heels.
Yeah,
That's like I'm talking sheepherder then, but no,
yeah,
we were still what Vince Jim Barnett changed my name from Gorgeous Teddy William to Sweet William,
ah,
which was a big change then. And then I started working as Sweet William.
mm,
In the 60s, Butch and me worked Singapore, Penang, Kuala Lumpur, going
wow.
far as Bangkok, and we worked Japan. We worked the East. That was in the 60s.
Wow. So when from there, the first few years in the business, what would you say was the hardest lesson you had to learn?
Going for going from British wrestling to American wrestling. Well, it wasn't hard to learn, but it was a big change.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
Mhm, mhm,
We when I went over and I went out and watched the American wrestling, the first time I went over there, I hadn't seen it on television. We never got wrestling on television till '76.
mm, mm,
And then and this I'm over there, and I went out and watched the matches, and I was watching them kick and punch.
mhm,
So I
how
knew
do I
when I
do
went to
that?
the ring, I had to learn to kick and punch,
Right,
'cause the Americans beat each other up and then grabbed a hold, you know what I mean?
right, right. So learning strikes, that was kind of a hard thing for you to figure out?
You know, yes and no was a big change. You know, uh, going from mat wrestling to more stand up. And when you're working standing up is more visual for
Mm,
television.
mm,
That mat stuff is really European and British, you know, coming from the Greco-Roman.
right, okay, okay, so now where about when in your timeline do you and Luke or you and Butch rather, um, start the sheepherder gimmick?
Oh, that's way down the road, mate.
Ah,
Okay,
okay.
I'll just give you a little thing here.
Mm,
Andre came to New Zealand. Andre, being a Frenchman, worked
mm,
Europe and UK,
mm,
United Kingdom. He
mhm,
came to New Zealand in about 68, 69, 69, and Butch and me worked around the country, handicap matches with him.
ah,
Now,
okay.
if we did them today, it would be but back then, the people would stand up and shake their hands. Back in New Zealand then, people used to wear suits to the wrestling and a
Mm,
tie, you know what I mean?
right,
They
right.
used to dress to go to the wrestling. It was
Huh,
a night out.
uh-huh.
Anyhow, we worked with Andre. 1972, 71, Andre came to North America for the first time, and he went to a promotion in Montreal called Grand Prix. Grand
Mm,
Prix was owned by the Vachons,
mm,
Morris and Butcher, or Mad Dog and Butcher, and Edward Carpentier, the Flying Frenchman.
mm.
Have you heard of him?
No, I don't think I have.
He was selling out Madison Square Gardens in the 50s.
Wow, wow.
60. Now this is 71. Andre came over there and was working. And that when he first went to that promotion, Grand Prix, they were running one town a night.
Mm,
We come over there 9 months, oh no, 6 months later, they were running three towns a night.
wow,
There was
wow.
only three television shows. Two of them, Andre was on them wrestling, and the other channel, he was a talk show, on the
Wow,
talk show all the time. And they were all the stations in Australia.
wow.
And
Now
so when we came over there 6 or 9 months later, um, all of a sudden, Andre was working with Edward Pontier, one of the guys from The Office, and
mhm,
the Vachons were a tag team. Gino Brito and Dino Bravo were a tag team, and there was two Indians. Um, I can't think of them, but they were well known in the States too, back in
mhm,
those days.
mm, mhm,
Anyhow, when we came over, straight away we were working with Andre and Carpentier and
wow,
and the two Vachons. Morris was only 220 pound, but Butcher, Mad Dog,
yeah,
Mad Dog was wild, you
yeah,
know,
right,
and
yeah,
he was well known how wild he was, even as a baby face. And his brother was 340, 350, you
mm,
know,
yeah,
320 to 350.
mm,
And then anyhow, so that we got a great start when we came over to Canada,
mm.
and then they were running three towns a night, and that we weren't the main tag team. The Hollywood Blondes were with Oliver Humperdinck was their manager. They
Okay,
were the they were the they were the main team there. Jerry Brown and he the oh, he was with Michael Hayes. What was the tag team with Michael Hayes?
The Freebirds?
Freebirds. When
Yeah.
the Freebirds had 3 guys, he
Uh-huh.
was the 3rd guy.
Oh, okay. I can't, was that I can't remember who that wasn't Eddie Gilbert, was it? No. Who was the 3rd
No,
guy?
no.
It was
Uh,
Hayes and
uh,
Gordy, and then, who was the 3rd?
I I go come up, I was with him all the time. The brain fart here, mate.
That's alright.
Anyhow, they
Let me
were
ask
the main tag team, and we were sort of the tier below that, you know,
Buddy Roberts was the 3rd.
Roddy Roberts.
Buddy Ro
Boy, that guy was a great worker, a
mm,
great worker,
mm.
but a fucking wild man. If I told you what they did in Montreal, you couldn't get it away today. You'd be cuffed up and everything, police would be on you.
Yeah? Yeah, you got a cool story? You got a funny story you can share?
With them,
Yeah.
okay, they lived, St. Catherine is the main street in Montreal.
Okay.
The next street over, running parallel with it, is Maisonneuve Avenue.
Okay.
Now, Maisonneuve is three rows on either side, 3 going that way, 3 going that way, traffic-wise.
Mhm.
They lived about 8 stories up in the apartment building. We would go over there to go to a town with them when we had big shows, and we'd go over there, go upstairs. You know, they Buddy would always be drinking.
Mm.
He didn't care, and one day we went over there. They were throwing furniture down and watching it bounce off the roofs of cars. That's how crazy it was. You go to a bar, they'd come out of the bar, and Jerry Jerry would backdrop Buddy onto hoods of cars. There'd be more, we and two in the bar. If they're drinking bottles, they would stack them up on the bar or cans, stack them up on the table they're drinking. When they left, they knocked the bottom ones out, and everything crashed everywhere. They didn't give a f- they didn't give a fuck. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right,
Now you
right.
wouldn't get away with that today.
No, no,
They
you
were the
definitely
big
would.
stars. They were the big star heels on television. You
R
know,
right.
up there, wild, and of course, you're selling out all the arenas, of course.
Yeah. Now let me ask you another question. You brought up, you worked with Andre and he got you it sounds like he's the one who got you over to Canada. I mean, how was your relationship with Andre?
Very good. It was the Vachons. He had told the Vachons, and our promoter was friends with the Vachons.
Mm,
And we said to our promoter, we'd worked the East, all the East and that in Japan, you know, it's time. It's time for us to make the move to go overseas, North America.
mm,
So the Vachons are the ones that brought us over. The
mhm.
Andre had told about us, but Steve Rickard, the New Zealand promoter, spoke to the Vachons, and they brought me and Butch over.
Okay. All right. So that happens, you go into Montreal, you're doing your gimmick there, and then at some point you switch to becoming the Sheepherders.
You
When did
know,
that happen?
when sorry, when we got over there, they said, "You can't be Brute." Oh, no, he was Brute Miller in New Zealand. Brute
Okay.
Miller. And that they said, "You can't be Brute Miller," 'cause there's the Brute had already been working through Canada from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Mm,
The Brute.
mm.
You've heard of the Brute, right?
I don't know if I have.
No, no. He was big in the '60s and '70s.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, he wrestled in the '80s, but he came back to the States and didn't use he stopped using the Brute and just settled down in the state that he was come from and worked under his real name.
Mm,
Anyhow, we're in the office. He said, "You can't." Um, Butcher said, "You can't be the Brute." and they've got paperbacks, books, paperback reading, books up
Mhm.
on a bookshelf.
Mm.
And he looks up on the bookshelf and he's looking at names and names. And he said he saw Nick Carter. Nick Carter was a detective and he was in a series of books.
Mm.
You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like a soap opera. And a
Mhm.
series of books said, "You're going to be Nick Carter." So Butch was Nick Carter from 1972 to 79 when we changed to the Sheepherders.
Okay. And what prompted you to switch to the Sheepherders?
Ah, well, we're in Hawaii working. We were living in Hawaii working for Ed Ed somebody, the promoter.
Mm.
His son played for the Patriots. Fucking hell. Ed Francis. Ed
Okay.
Francis. And
Okay.
his son was a wide receiver.
Okay.
And the Patriots said, we're working in New Zealand. The New Zealand promoter bought out, Steve Rickard bought out Ed Francis and started running there. But we're there now and living there. And
Mm.
we did a big show in Pearl Harbor. You've heard of Pearl Harbor, of course.
Oh, of course. Yes, of course.
The place that the Japanese bombed.
Right, right.
And that we're working a big show in Pearl Harbor, and there was flyers. Buddy Rose, um, Roddy Piper. Oh, I can't think of the names, but big names are from the States, right?
Okay. Right.
And they saw us work there. Uh, Roddy watched us work there, whoever we were working with, and he said, "You want to come to this? You want to come to Oregon?" He said the promotion works from the top of California right up to Vancouver, Canada.
Mm.
And we said, "Yeah, we'd love to come and work in there. We want to come in the States." And we said, "But we haven't got a permit. We haven't got a permit." And he said, you're working in fucking in Hawaii. That's a state of the United States. That's how dumb we were.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't dumb. It was just we'd been working there for 3 or 4 months. You know what I mean? And when
Right.
we were working away, maybe 6 months, we were keeping our head above water, but we weren't making anything to save. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Sure, sure, sure.
We're doing 5 islands a week, flying to
Wow.
5 islands a week from Waikiki,
Wow.
and then back every night. We'd be
Wow.
back in Waikiki by 10 o'clock every night. How's
Wow.
that?
That's awesome, man.
Fly out at 5 or 6, 5, and be back by 10.
Wow. Yeah. How did you like that lifestyle, though? Did you like that?
Oh, got up in the morning because 'cause we're getting back early. Got up in the morning, went to the gym about 10 or 9, 10, yeah, 10, leave the gym, come and have some breakfast, and be on the beach. By 11, we're on the beach every day.
Yeah.
And we lived in the Waikiki Circle, right across the pier, across the road from the pier on Waikiki Beach.
Man,
And King Curtis Iakia owned the boogie boards right there on the beach next to the pier. You
nice.
heard of King Curtis, right?
Oh, oh, yeah. Sure, sure.
A well known heel.
Yeah.
And that and King Curtis and Mark Lewin had worked in New Zealand. Mark Lewin was the booker for Jim Barnett for 7, maybe 6 years in Australia.
Mm. Mhm.
And King Curtis, Mark was a baby and King was the heel. They went everywhere together.
Wow.
Anyhow, here we are. And Ronnie said to us, and we said yes. And he says, "I'm going to make a call." He called Don Owens,
Mm.
and he went back to us and he says, "Call this number." and wrote the number, "Call him now." We called Don Owens, and he said, when can you come in?" The heel tag team just dropped the belts to to two baby faces,
Mm,
well known ones too, and left, and the heels had left.
mm,
So we next minute we're flying into there, and we were still Nick Carter and Sweet William.
mm,
And he said, "We're changing your names. That we're giving you a name that'll go with the country. Your
mm.
country." You see, we had 80 million sheep and 3 million people when we left New Zealand. That's why all the guys had smiles on their face, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sheep sheep shaggers.
Yeah.
Anyhow, all of a sudden we're the sheepherders, and and it's Butch Miller and Luke Williams.
Wow, man,
They
and
gave
so
me the name Luke. They gave me the name Luke. They said they read up about the sheep farms, and the dogs were called Luke.
wow. So now what when you became the Sheepherders, how did you progress? I gotta imagine that when you were Sweet William, that you weren't as violent as you eventually became in the Sheepherders. How like, where did the I mean, you were doing bloody brawls before, ECW and all that
We
stuff,
were we were hardcore before hardcore became a name brand. We
right?
started doing barbed wire matches and fire matches in the 70s.
Yeah, and so what prompted that? Who came up with the idea to do that stuff?
No, we worked a program with Roddy Piper and Rick Martel.
Mm,
Rick Martel was over in Hawaii,
mm,
and Roddy was working for Don Owens at the time,
mm.
and he needed a partner. And I knew Rick Martel well. I'd known him since he was 16 or 15 years of age. How's
Wow,
that?
wow, man.
When he used
Yeah.
to come to see his brother up in Canada in 1972, he'd come to see his brother working
Mm,
Michelle, and
mm,
Michelle got killed in Puerto Rico.
mm.
Anyhow, he didn't get killed. He had a major heart attack after the
Mm.
heart punch
Ah, wow.
by
Jeez.
the guy that killed Vader, by the guy that killed Bruiser Brody. His
Oh,
finish
jeez.
was a heart punch, and he gave Michelle the heart punch in Potsy at the finish of the match. He was carried out. He was in the dressing room having a shower, and he had a heart attack. Now
Mhm.
he had ate a big meal about an hour before he went to the ring.
Jeez. Man, different time. What was the guy's
Yeah,
name? What
yeah.
was that guy's name who gave that heart punch and killed Brody?
Uh, uh, Cooper. Jose Gonzalez.
Oh, okay.
You know, yeah, they Gonzalez, they were a tag team. Him with Johnny, and they were the Invaders, a well-known team that worked for Vince Jr., who worked for Vince Senior,
Mm,
and worked in Puerto Rico.
wow,
Carlos Clone was up here. They were up here as a tag team.
wow,
When Carlos wanted a partner in a tag match, he'd always get uh, Invader One, which was Jose Gonzalez.
wow. Wow, so now going back to the Sheepherders again,
Sheepherders.
yeah, so when we're back in Sheepherders, is there a you basically took that all over the territories. Was there a
Yeah, I'll tell you how we got into violent stuff.
Mm,
We worked with Rick Martel and Roddy Piper for 13 or 14 months straight. Buddy
wow.
Rose Buddy Rose was our flag bearer. Buddy Rose was the main
Mm,
single heel in the territory, and if he saw a gimmick coming in, he would join it because he knew he got a longer life.
yeah,
He came up to us and he says, "Can I carry your flag and be your flag bearer?" Now, here's the main heel in the territory.
yeah,
Now you know why? Now he disowns America. He
Mm,
joined the Kiwis. All our prod all our, interviews was knocking America.
right,
Now we
right,
got Buddy knocking America too, and under
right,
the New Zealand flag, which is making us stronger and him more stronger.
right, right.
And that's how we went into six-man singles and made very few singles, mostly tag matches and six-man matches. And doing a program so long, we went into different kind of matches. We thought up boot camp matches. I can't remember all the names, but we keep inventing matches. You know what I mean? To
Yeah,
keep the program going.
wow. And so you worked for them for basically 3 or 4 years, just working Roddy and Rick Martel, huh?
No, we were there for 6 months, a year, 6 months. We turned babyface the last month. We did something with Buddy did something with us behind Butch on me behind Butch's back and that and Butch turned around and started we had this is when say Mount St. Helen blew. Remember
Mm,
the mountain in Washington?
I
Mount
don't
St. Helen, six
yeah,
se 79 at Blue, you
uh,
know, and lava went for fucking 50 miles from the mountains.
right,
You know
right.
what I mean?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And we did a gimmick that was coming down, and everyone was wearing masks. And
Mm,
that we did a something with Ed Wiskowski in the crowd with a hat on and a mask on, and
mm,
that and he come out. You know when we got on top of Buddy, Butch caught Buddy in the end doing something to me, and got on top of him, and Ed come out of the crowd with a gold club or something or other, and that and came in and started beating ourselves, beating both of us up with a golf club. And then Buddy got up and joined him, and they formed a tag team. And that because Ed put the hat off, and the mask off his face, and everybody knew him there because that was his home territory.
okay.
And
So
Buddy and him were tag teams. So the last month we worked, or 6 weeks, we worked to get them as baby faces.
hmm. So tell me, as you were with the sheepherder gimmick, who do you think was your best kind of rivals as you did that gimmick?
There's a lot of them. These two first,
Mhm.
because they're easy to work with. Very Ricky would do all that fucking high flying, and he was he was an angel, you know what
Mm.
I mean, in the ring.
Right.
But
Uh-huh.
everyone believed in him. Good body, everything. And Roddy was a madman, as a baby face.
Right.
He, he'd just go in his arms and legs. When it was time for him, he had great psychology.
Yeah.
When it
Yeah.
was time to go, he would start moving and kicking, and then you'd take him back down. And the next time he'd come up, moving, kicking, that would blow the house off. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And Ricky was a real baby face to get the heat on. You know, he was a good looking, good body guy.
Wow.
Anyhow, what happened after a year and a half when we turned baby face, the promoter says, I've got you booked in a good place.
Mm.
He says, the Carolinas, the NWA office,
Mm. Mm.
run by Jim Crockett.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
that was the hottest territory in the country.
Mm.
One of the biggest territories, NWA, it was North Carolina, South Carolina, West Virginia, and Georgia.
Mm.
That's
Mhm.
how big the territory was. And, all Blackjack Mulligan, Ray Stevens, Jimmy Snuka. I could go on with names there. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Sure.
Ric Flair, Wahoo McDaniels,
Yeah.
the names, so many big names, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So when you get there, are you kinda, like, starstruck by that? Or were
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah, well, we didn't even know the names.
Mm,
We never knew the names of that. You know, I'd read a few magazines and seen the names of magazines, but we hadn't seen these guys in wrestling. We'd never seen them wrestling or anything like that. See, we've been in Canada, we've been in Hawaii, and we've been in the Northwest, you know, for Northwest Championship Wrestling, you know, with Buddy and Ricky.
mm,
Only guys that came in for six mans like Andre the Giant, a lot of guys that come in for California to be with Ricky and Red Bastien, names from California. You know,
mm,
we've met, but none down there. Now we're amongst all these guys. And the second week, we won the we won the Mid Atlantic belts.
mm,
Now the Mid Atlantic belts, the main belts were on Ray Stevens and Jimmy Snuka.
mm,
And I knew Jimmy Snuka from Oregon,
mm, mm.
and of course, being an islander, Fiji Islander, and we're the islanders, and we're from an island down below them, we got on good together, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
We got a lot of Fijians, and we had the biggest Samoan population in the world living in New Zealand back in those days.
So
And now so here we are
yeah,
with
yes.
with the Mid-Atlantic belts.
Yeah, so tell me, as you're going through the sheepherder gimmick, and you're doing all these violent matches, that had to have been physically demanding on you. How did you kinda cope with that?
How did we what?
How did you cope with the physical demands of doing these kinda ultra violent hardcore matches for so long?
So we just went along, mate. At
Mm,
one time we did in about 45 days, we did 37 barbed wire cage matches
wow, jeez,
For Bill Watts.
man. Now
Butch
when you do
Butch got staff, Bobby Fulton got staff. Oh yeah, the tag teams when we were NWA, and that you know the fabulous ones was Steve Kern and Stan Lane, and then there was Bill Dundee and the King Jerry Lawler and the Fantastics, Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers. They were little guys with big hearts.
mhm,
A
mm,
lot of excitement there. You know,
yeah,
these are the tag teams that we made money with. We worked with big tag teams too, but we didn't do long programs with the big tag team. Zambu Express, uh, yeah, Lex Luger, and the Towers, um, Blackjack Mulligan's son,
oh, Barry Windham?
Barry Windham. You know,
Mhm,
we,
mhm,
we
yeah,
didn't do long programs. You know, but we did longer programs with these other guys that I just mentioned because we're selling out every night. That it,
yeah, let me ask you, I remember when I was a kid, I was a big WWF guy in the '80s. I was 7, 8 years old, and I remember turning on the TV, and I don't remember it had to have been a WCW or an NWA show, but I remember seeing you guys do a tag team match with the Fantastics, or maybe it was the Fabulous Ones. I can't remember which one it was, but I remember watching it and going, I'd never seen anything like it. It was a hardcore match before, like you said, before ECW hardcore was even like a cool name. But the thing is it was so different than even anything I'd seen. Can you tell me what was the difference between the hardcore style that you were doing versus what kind of became just bunkhouse, no psychology, just crazy violence later on? Does that make sense?
yeah, we started. It was due to the programs we did. You know, we were working with guys. We would do the normal matches, and then we'd do um, no DQ matches, and then we'd do a lumberjack match, and then
Mm,
maybe a cage match. Then we had to start thinking how to top the cage match off. You know what I
sure.
mean?
Yeah.
Bunkhouse, bunkhouse brawls in the buildings and all that sort of stuff. That's how we developed all these other crazy matches, and we had to go wilder all the
Mhm.
time, blood and guts.
Yeah, wow. And
Or just
so
like Abdullah. Abdullah, we'd known since the late '60s, early '70s, and you know, they wanted to see the baby faces beat us up, and see us bleed, but we'd never get 1, 2, 3. We wouldn't get that pin. We'd get DQ'd or something would happen till we did the big blow off. At
mhm,
the end of the program, and then we'd get beaten around the territory.
nice, nice. So now I wanna shift gears and talk a little bit about, um, shifting to the Bushwhacker gimmick. So you've done sheepherders all over. Vince comes to you and he wants to make you baby faces. Tell me how that happens.
How it happened? I we're at the gym, the Gold's Gym in Columbus. I go to the, phone box outside, the old red phone box, you know what
Mm,
I mean? And
mhm.
I dial home to pick up my messages. There's a message from a guy called Pat. "Who the hell's Pat?" And he says, "Give me a ring when you can, please." I call him, and he hands me over to another guy who says, "G'day, Kiwi. This is Vince McMahon." Now, I've been sending tapes since the early '80s to his dad and to them, not
Mhm,
every couple of years.
mhm.
Vince McMahon, he says, "I'd like to have you guys come in and work for me." And I said, "Sure, sure. When can we start?"
Right.
And he says, "Well, when can you come up and see me?" And I thought straight away, "This is Saturday." I said, I can see you on Wednesday."
Mm,
So, like, I told Crockett's now, I'm trying to tell you this. I'm working for Crockett's office. I don't realize we're on fucking the, satellite.
mm,
I don't realize we're seen all over the South. The TBS and TNT wasn't in the northern in the early '80s. Those 2 kinda show TBS or WTBS and TNT, they're not in the northern packages. When you buy your TV package, that's not in there yet. They didn't get in those packages till the late '80s,
mm, mhm,
mid to
mhm.
late '80s, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But we're seen all over the South, and if we stayed there, we'd be seen all over the country, and I
Mm,
didn't even know this.
mm. Yeah.
And, we're doing I'm just jumping back. We're doing 3,000 miles a week in a car. It's between 25 and 3,500 weeks in a car, and we get a call up by from a friend called Frenchie Martin. He's in Puerto Rico, and he says, "We need a tag team here. You only work 3 days a week, twice on Sunday. You do about 150 miles a week in the car, 200 miles." And
Uh-huh,
I said, "What's the money like?" And he gave me the figure. It
uh-huh.
was more than we were making
For less miles.
and less miles and that. So that's I gave Jim Crockett the notice, and
Mm,
that I didn't know at the time, but you never give him the notice. He
mm.
always says to you, "I'm gonna finish you up at Easter or whatever date, and I'll bring you back in a year or 2." You know what I mean?
Right, right.
And that
Yeah.
so I left him, and that put a fucking real stinker on us.
Right.
'Cause down
Wow.
the road, Dusty became the booker, and he tried to bring us in. I brought Dusty in. I booked for 14 years for different
Mm,
promotions, and I
mm,
brought Dusty and Blackjack in to work against me and Butch in Southwest Championship Wrestling. Joe Blanchard was the booker, the owner of the promotion.
mm,
Tully Blanchard's father. And I
mm.
brought them in for a week to work against me and Butch. And after that week, he says, "I want you to come into the Carolinas." He went back and told Jim, and Jim says, "I don't want them back." They walked out on me.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Anyhow, we get to it. I'm just thinking of stuff. Sorry for cutting you off,
Oh,
but I'm
no, that's
thinking of
good.
stuff that happened
Yeah,
during that era.
yeah, yeah.
Anyhow, the phone call from the shipment. I'm
Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon here. Wednesday, I said. I told, when Monday I called the office. I'm back in Charlotte now, and I called the office up and says our visas are running out. We need to go out of the country on Wednesday to renew our visas, so we can work here without any problem.
Mm,
Which
mhm.
was all BS.
Right.
And when we got back on Monday too, there was tickets on our doorstep. Everything was there waiting for us. We
Mm,
flew up and waited outside the office. Vince Free, we went in, and he says, "I'd like to make you guys baby faces."
mm,
And Butch says, "Look at these mugs. How are you going to make these baby faces?"
mm,
And he says, "Well, look at the mugs on my top baby faces. Hulk Hogan, oh, excuse me, sir. Hulk
mm.
Hogan, Randy Savage, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Jake the Snake. None of them have got pretty moshes. And he's right. None of them had pretty moshes, did they?
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
then I popped up, being an ex-booker. I
Mhm.
said to him, well, bring us in his heels and turn us baby faces. And he says, I don't do things that way. That's when I realized you don't tell Caesar what to do.
Right.
I don't do things that I bring you in and do vignettes for about a month and run those vignettes and then bring you into the ring.
Nice.
So he
Mm,
sent us home, put us on the payroll straight away,
mm,
and we started every week. We'd come up and spend a day doing about 4 vignettes in different places.
mm. Were
Even
you
out in Arizona. It flew us out to Arizona, and we went up in the mountains in Tucson and did a vignette way up there in the mountains. It looked like the outback. You know what I mean?
right. Were
With me.
you when you first heard, "Okay, we're gonna be doing this Bushwhacker gimmick,"
No,
were you worried that people weren't gonna accept it because you'd been doing the Sheepherders for so long?
no, no. I'm
Okay.
gonna tell you, sorry, mate, Josh, I gotta cut back there. So after coming up and started doing the first lot of vignettes. We get home and Butch rings me up and says, fuck, I got contracts here that is for the wrong people. It's got the Bushwhackers. And I said to Butch straight away, Vince wants to own us for merchandise.
Mm,
You know
mhm.
what I mean?
Right.
Because if he uses our name, we get 5% of merchandise. Using his name, we get 1 or 2%.
Mm.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Right, right.
Big difference, a
Sure.
big difference, and hence we were the Bushwhackers.
Right. Wow.
And right at that time, Crocodile Dundee 2 was out. Now you know how big a hit Crocodile D1 was.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Big one.
Crocodile D2 followed up, and it was just as strong.
Yeah.
It's just as strong. And of course, we picked up lines from that and little some skits from that when we did these vignettes. We used a couple of the lines out of the movies, and
Sure.
every public, every kid in the or adult was using these lines. Some of them were great lines. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. So when you come in, you become bushwhackers. Um, it got over real quick. I mean, I remember when I was a kid watching it, it got over really fast. Did you realize when you heard the gimmick that it was gonna get as popular as it did?
No, no, we didn't realize that. And yeah, sorry, but I'm jumping in here. When we started, after a month of vignettes and that,
Mhm.
people were fucking, you know, the vignettes were getting
Right,
over
right,
big because they were all crazy. You know what I
right,
mean?
right, right.
And we started wrestling. Every agent wanted us to come out different. You
Mm,
know,
mhm,
calm it down. The French guy, uh, the agent, I can't think of his name, George Steele. And then the old AWA champion, what's his name now? And always Nick Bonkwiggle. They all wanted to come out different. You know,
mhm,
one of us up the stand with popcorn coming through the crowd, the other one coming through the entrance with a Coca-Cola. All they wanted to split us up instead of coming. And in the end, we said the spotlight's on two different people. We got to come together.
mm, mhm,
And
mhm.
that's when we started marching, doing our doing our things that we did as heels, but turning into babyface, swinging our arms, and we put the high stepping in, marching, high stepping, going to the ring. And
Nice.
then about a couple of weeks later, Butch, everyone was leaning over the rail trying to tag us, and Butch grabbed somebody and licked the top of his head. So that's how I always put my hand on the head and lick the back of my hand.
Right.
Yeah, and that's how that and the people caught on to that straight away. Everyone was going to the rails and going like that.
Right, that's hilarious. Man, so now when you get, to the WWF, WWE, is there somebody that you watched or that you worked with that was kind of your favorite to work with in that era?
Yeah, in that era, well, Vince put us over everyone at the start, over the Rougeaus, over the Russians, you know, the Russians,
Yeah,
Nikolai Volkov, and
Boris Yukov, right?
yeah, every team he put us over,
Mm,
and then for a year or 2, 2 years, because you don't go back to the same town. It's a big territory. You
sure,
know what I mean?
sure,
Big territory. A lot of a lot of medium shows. At that time too, they're running 3 towns a night,
sure, yeah,
you know, A, B, and C town. Anyhow, and in the end, he had us working with new guys that came in who were very green. And I'm
mm,
talking about green,
mm,
very green.
mhm, so you were
Like
kinda the
the
guys breaking people in.
like the nasty boys. Ooh,
Ah,
they were rough around the edges. Except we worked with them for a year, over a year, mate,
mm,
around the territory. And boy, that was tough. And then, in between, he the brainbusters come in, and he put
mm,
this was a bad situation. He put us with them. They had the world tag belts at the time,
mhm,
and we started working with them. We did an angle, and then you're on television or on a house show, and then we're working on television with enhancement guys, and Butcher's got my head to do the battering ram. The
mm,
guy sees him running towards him with the battering ram. He turns, and my head hits his hip.
mm,
I I fractured 2 vertebrae in my neck, hairline
ooh,
fractures.
oh, man,
My ears popped and everything, and that I was out for 10 weeks. That was the end of that run. We were gonna run with them for the belts, and
mm.
that was that end of that. I killed that run by that guy turning.
Man, I can't believe though, just hearing that story, that you fractured 2 vertebrae and then you're like, "I'm out 10 weeks." Like, that's not enough to recover fractured
No,
vertebrae.
it was
You know,
hairline. It was just
right,
hairline, mate.
sure, but still, that doesn't seem like a long time for a hairline fracture on your vertebrae. You're a tough dude, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
get back,
yeah. I've had
yeah,
2 necks I've had 2 neck surgeries since then. I'm all
yeah,
fused and metal plates.
yeah, wow. When
And
was
I need another one now, lower.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm sick of operations.
I bet, I bet. Are you getting the radiating nerve stuff in your arms too? Is that kinda part of it?
What's that?
Do you feel it in your arms? A lot of times when you have
Both
neck issues.
shoulders, all the rotator cuffs are torn. see that there? See
Yeah.
how I'm pushing the arm up with
Right.
my hand because I can't. Here it goes now. That's high as the arms go up. That's
Wow.
high as they go up. Now I can bend this part,
Right. Right.
but they're torn. I've already been on the operating table twice for
Yeah.
this, and I had a cut on my leg once. He wouldn't do the operation. He said, just in case infection. And the other time when I do the left shoulder, I was out cold, ready to get cut, and they couldn't get a reading for blood pressure on this arm.
Wow.
So I woke up 2.5 hours later and I said, thank God that's done. And the doctor said, we didn't touch it. We couldn't get a reading on your right arm with blood pressure. So they operated on me and blew that arm out. And I said, fuck, I've got two shoulders to operate. I got corporal tunnel, bad corporal tunnel in both hands, and I got a neck to get done. Stop. I'm nearly 80. I'm going to live my life like I am without getting operated.
Yeah, I agree. Let me ask you, with all this stuff, I ask a lot of pro wrestlers when they're at the end, um, if you had to do it over again, would you do it again?
Yes.
Yeah?
Look at the shoulder here to the other shoulder.
Mhm. Mhm.
Did you see how high it is?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that was in the early 70s when I was in Japan and a Japanese boy suplexed me right near the ropes. My feet caught on the top rope and my shoulder went right down into the mat. And it's been like that. And I think I was living in New Zealand before I came to North America. And look at it.
Jeez.
That's been like that
Yeah.
since
But, like
since 70.
but some people, when they hear this about wrestling and they hear about all the injuries and all the travel and all the stuff, they probably don't get it. What was it about this life that you loved so much?
Shit, I didn't even as I said to you, I never heard of wrestling, but when I got into it and that, I began to love it.
Yeah.
I loved it and I was thinking of different things to do, different matches to make up, in my mind. When I first started, mate, I was doing an apprenticeship as an engineer, and the factory was right by the airport. So remember I said an overseas guy would come in and do 2 shows a week, one in Wellington where we lived, and I'd fly out to Christchurch or to Auckland to do the other show, and then I'd be back at work the next morning at 7:30
Yeah, man.
to
It's
work
it's
all
fun
night at the
it's funny when you get into pro wrestling, even at like I said, I'm an indie guy at the lowest levels, and, um, it just gets in your blood.
Yes, it does.
People just don't understand the rush of
Hey,
going in there.
Josh, you
Yeah,
wouldn't be doing what you're doing if it wasn't in your blood.
right.
You're doing a podcast with another wrestler,
Yeah,
and you're a wrestler. That's in your blood. You're doing something apart from being in the ring, so it has to be in your blood.
yeah, absolutely. It very much is. Real quick we're a little bit over time, but I wanted to ask you one question. Can you know, Butch passed away a while back. Just what was it about that relationship that lasted so long? Why was it that you were able to keep that going when other tag teams kinda didn't?
Uh, we got on so well together. I think we just had one real thing where I left him and eh, I left him and went home one time, from television.
Mm, mhm.
But that was over. He'd been drinking, and it just got too much. I went home, and then when out the television the next day, he came home the day later, and then we went off back on the road and never talked about it.
Mm,
That happened. That was only one thing, and we were together from 60, 66 or 65 right through to 2002. That's when he went home back to New Zealand.
man. So you obviously loved him like a brother, I'm sure.
More worse, closer than a brother. We shared rooms, for the first 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hotel rooms from 65 to 85 or 84. Then we
Mhm.
started getting separate rings.
Yeah, man. Well, you've been so gracious with your time. I wanna ask, um, one question, and that is, what do you hope now that your career is over, you're almost 80 years old, if you could have the fans remember one thing about you and the Bushwhackers, what would you want them to remember?
There's two Those 2 crazy guys from New Zealand who Jesse Ventura called the marching morons.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, the thing that was so funny about that was the a lot of people don't understand, at the indie level, people will talk about great workers, and they'll talk about, "Oh, well, they can do all the moves," and the thing that was so fascinating about the Bushwhackers is you were over before the bell even rang. You know what I mean?
We were
And
what?
you were over before the bell even rang. I mean, you
Yes.
you you guys were so over there. I don't ever remember, and I went to lots of live events. Anytime you guys I'm from Sacramento, California. Anytime you guys came to the Arco Arena, I was there. I don't ever remember the Bushwhackers coming through and not having a smile on my face and wanting you guys to win. And so you guys' faces, it's so crazy to think that you obviously are some of the best workers because you went from being the most violent heels to some of the most beloved faces ever.
Yeah.
That's quite remarkable.
A lot of guys said, "How could you turn from being a most violent heel in North America to that?" And that was an easy question.
Mhm.
Money.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
we were professionals, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't mind doing jobs when we had to,
Mhm.
but we'd always get our if we did a job, we'd always get our heat back after. We wouldn't lay on the mat after the baby faces took us and that. We got up, staggered around, and looked for the baby faces to fight them again, but they'd be gone,
Yeah,
from the ring.
right, right.
We always tried to keep our heat, and then we'd lift the New Zealand flag up.
Mhm,
You know what I
mhm.
mean?
Right.
And wave it, and the people all over the country got to hate seeing that fucking flag fly.
Aw
Before a match every night, we would do our thing to the New Zealand flag.
yeah,
I would
sure,
hold the flag, Butch would hold the other end, and would salute to it. And then, people used to be booing like hell. Match
yeah.
hadn't even started.
That's awesome, man. So, last question for you, at some point down the road, you're gonna pass away, and when you do, there'll be a eulogy. What do you hope the one thing is that somebody says about you in your eulogy?
I can't think of that, mate.
Mhm.
They say that bloody guy was a tough son of a bee.
Yeah. Well, you are, man, and I gotta tell you, like, it's been fun to sit here and listen to you and just isn't it crazy that, just a guy who wanted to be an engineer, who didn't even know anything about pro wrestling, traveled the world and touched so many lives just by this crazy thing called pro wrestling.
And this week, Josh, this week,
Mhm.
Friday, Saturday, I fly to Pittsburgh, and I'm in the ring there in a six-man.
You're still working?
I'm in the ring. Well, I promised the guy they want me to march out, you
Okay.
know, and
Sure.
do that. So I march out, and I said, "Make it a six-man, so I'll get in once or twice."
That's man, I was gonna tell you, I think it was probably 2007 or maybe 2008. Or, I was in Philadelphia. I'm an attorney, and I was looking at the Seton Hall Law School in New Jersey, thinking about going out there, and I went to a Ring of Honor show, and you
Yes.
were a surprise worker on the show, and you came out, and I was just like, "Wow," you looked great, And I mean, you had to have been in your 60s at that time, and you were still out working a lot of those guys, and it's just, when you know how to work, it doesn't leave you, you know?
Yes. Kerry Silken, the owner of ROH, is one of my closest friends.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
talk to him every day.
Do you really?
Yeah,
Nice. That's awesome. So, if people wanna find you and follow you, where do you have a social media presence?
so social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's Bushwhacker Luke. My head is on the planet.
Okay.
The planet, round planet, and my head's in the middle of that, and that, and I joined Twitter. I joined TikTok about a few years ago, but never used it. I started using it the other day again. I've only used it twice or three times, but I'm going to get used to going on that. I have a guy that does all my social media, all my posting. I just send him photos or videos that I've done, talking and that, and he posts everything every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well
And
well, for
I'm
the
into and one dude, I'm partners with a guy that owns Iron Head supplements, and,
mm,
I'm in the supplement business with him. He's taken me in as a partner, and that's my, this is a new company. It's only been open 3 years, but the products are very good, very good. We've sent it to different bodybuilders around the country, and they've done reviews for us on the internet, and everybody's give us this so
awesome.
far.
Awesome. That's awesome. So, does it have its own social media following as well, Ironhead
Yes,
Supplement?
Ironhead Sups.
Alright. Well, yeah, so for those of you who are listening, make sure to follow Bushwhacker Luke. If you're in the Pittsburgh area, come watch him work this Friday, and then also, follow Ironhead Supplements. Bushwhacker Luke, we're gonna have to do this again. I have a lot more questions for you, so we're gonna have to book you to come back and talk again. It's been
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, we never mentioned Butch's death, how it happened at WrestleMania in LA in 2023, but we'll keep that for the future. That's a story on its own.
Well, I'm gonna book you to come back, and we're gonna talk about that and, other things because I got a lot more to talk about, but I wanna be respectful of your time. So we'll have you come back again.
And much appreciated, Josh.
Alright.
And by the way, I can't lick you. You you hey, I can smell you. You smell like rotten sardines, and, you know, that's one
Yeah,
hell of a, cologne, mate.
yeah, yeah, well,
And you know what rotten sardines smell like?
yeah, well, I do, it smells like me. Alright, go ahead and subscribe, guys, we'll see you next time.